Coming up on Green Bay Nation, the Packers control their postseason destiny thanks to a victory over the Vikings. It all comes down to Week 18 against the Bears. All that and more next on Green Bay Nation. Hello and welcome to Green Bay Nation. I'm Lauren Helmbrecht, and joining me to chat everything Packers, he's a Packers beat writer for the Green Bay Press-Gazette, Ryan Wood, and he's a radio host for 107.5 and 1400 The Fan, Marcus Eversole. Happy 2024. Any New Year's resolutions?
Yes, I want to learn how to shuffle a deck of cards. And I'm not actually kidding about that because
just like Jordan.
I can't do it. I mean, I'm not big on cards. People have tried to teach me. I know I'm physically capable of doing it. Everybody is. But I just don't know how to do it.
I'll make you feel better. I also have never been able to shuffle a deck of cards, but I got to say, that's never making my New Year's resolution list. I mean, that's just not something that – there's other things, Marcus.
Yeah.
There's other things that come to mind before that.
I'm going to practice more French. That's it. Just more French.
How is your French? Can you, drop some lines here or –
Comme ci, comme ça.
I don't know what that means.
Right now, let's talk about the Packers. All right, Packers took down the Vikings 33-10. New Year's Eve, Sunday Night Football, huge win. Kicked off the new year. Kind of controlling their own destiny. Now the Packers just need to win in Week 18, beating the Bears, and they make the playoffs. But before we break down that future game, Jordan Love had 4 touchdowns against the Vikings, no picks. The offense had 2 100-yard players first time this season. Defense, 4 sacks, 14 quarterback hits, held Justin Jefferson to kind of irrelevant in the game. All right. Was this the Packers' most complete game of the season?
I think the right answer would be we. Yes, it is. I mean, it wasn't even a game. The Packers put up almost 500 total yards, held the Vikings to just over 200 total yards. The only time the Vikings scored a touchdown was basically a late Christmas present from Samori Toure on a muffed punt return. So it was a complete dominant performance. The Vikings defense had no answers for the Packers offense. Packers defense was the aggressor. We'll talk more about the Vikings quarterback, Jaren Hall, who's clearly not ready to play right now, so that didn't hurt the Packers' cause. But it's hard to have a more complete game than a 33-10 win that was never in question.
Marcus, it was all of those things. I'm going to play contrarian. If we're asking if it's the most complete performance of the season, I'm still going back to Thanksgiving. The much more difficult opponent. The score was way closer than it actually was. The Lions scored some garbage time points. They throttled a really good team on the road that night, and I'd even say the Kansas City Chiefs. You had Jordan Love going off against a really good Chiefs defense. You had a big pick of Patrick Mahomes late in the game. But what the Packers did well was take the gift presented to them. They had a 5th-round rookie quarterback to start that game, and you could just tell that defense that's been maligned for a good reason. It was licking his chops. Jordan Love, he's that guy. In a big moment, his first kind of playoff type atmosphere to win or lose and it dictates your season, he was huge. So it was a great performance. I think that there were a few others that might have been more complete.
All right, so given that pretty much on all sides of the ball, the Packers played well, besides that Samori Toure fumble, which he was on crutches in the locker room today. He's been put on IR, so he did get injured. But what do you think the main reason the Packers were able to win in Week 17? Is it offense, defense, Jordan Love's performance? What's the main reason?
I mean, certainly a combination of all those things, but if you're asking the main reason, and you are, and I'm the first to answer, I feel like it would be just wrong to not start with Jordan Love. I mean, he was lights out in that game. Threw 3 touchdowns, didn't throw a pick, passer rating 125.3. He ran for another touchdown. In his last 7 games, he's thrown 16 touchdowns to 1 pick. He's ran for 2 more touchdowns. His passer rating 109.9, I believe, over his last 7 games. So what we saw Sunday night wasn't an anomaly, but it may have been the best version of Jordan Love we've seen at any point this season, which is good because I know the Vikings defense was shorthanded. That's still not a bad defense. He made them look completely inept, though. I mean, there was no resistance there. And again, you can't forget that they're playing shorthanded. If he had that game with his full complement of weapons, that would have been impressive. No Christian Watson, no Dontavian Wicks. Jaden Reed only played a half. And sure enough, just like Ryan predicted last week, Bo Melton had the first 100-yard receiving game of the season for the Packers.
Yeah, don't ask me to make any bold predictions this week. I'm retired. Also, I didn't predict that. But look, yeah, I thought that Jordan Love's his presence in this game, the fact that he's on a roll, I thought this Packers offense had a chance to win. I picked the Vikings, had a chance to win a shootout. The Packers brought the shootout. The Vikings did not. And I remember sitting in the press box before the game. The last thing I said right before kickoff was, a fifth-round rookie quarterback has no business winning this type of game with these stakes in this environment. And we don't know what kind of Packers teams want to show up week to week, but that's kind of like that moment of clarity of, gosh, the Packers shouldn't lose this one, and they did it. They took the gift. The Vikings made a huge error starting Jaren Hall in that game, so the Packers made him pay for it.
You teed me up really well saying we don't know what version of the Packers we're getting week to week. Talk about the defense. So 3 straight head-scratching games. Jair Alexander gets suspended. So, of course, Joe Barry's defense is going to play out of their mind, getting 4 sacks, 14 quarterback hits, just putting so much pressure on, yes, a rookie quarterback, but still a not too shabby Vikings team. What happened? Where does this defense come from?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with everything you just mentioned there, a combination of all that stuff. The Packers defense has no reason to apologize for dominating the Vikings the way they did. Yet we have to consider that Jaren Hall is not ready to play in the NFL right now. He got benched at halftime, and they may have been too late to pull the plug on him. You could tell in the first quarter, it just wasn't going to get better for Jaren Hall. So that was a disaster. But like you said, again, weighing all these different factors here, they had gone 3 straight games. They allowed Tommy DeVito to be the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Same thing against Baker Mayfield. Then Bryce Young had the best game of his young career. So sure, the quarterback situation for Minnesota was a disaster, but the Packers made him look as bad as they should have.
Seriously, what were the Vikings doing starting Jaren Hall in that game? I don't get it, and I digress. But I think it's one word: aggressiveness. They treated Jaren Hall like what he was, which was a 5th-round rookie quarterback. The same way the Packers go into a game against Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff, a really good Lions offense, Justin Herbert, and Joe Barry will get aggressive because he knows to rattle a good quarterback, to affect him, you've got to get after him. And they haven't done that against every non-Patrick Mahomes quarterback that they've faced. They did that to Jaren Hall. If they're aggressive, this is a defense that can play with some bite. When they sit back, it's just a different story.
It's not even a team with a bark and a bite. They're
Right.
not doing anything if they're not being aggressive. That's why the Packers sit back all the time. And the defensive players told us after the game they really enjoyed getting after it. All right, when we come back, it all comes down to this. 2nd year in a row, Packers control their playoff destiny going into Week 18. Last season, Green Bay could not get it done. Now the Chicago Bears stand in the way of a Packers playoff push. Can the green and gold earn it this year? That's next. Welcome back to Green Bay Nation. Lauren Helmbrecht alongside Ryan Wood and Marcus Eversole. Throw out your calculators. Put away the playoff simulators. Here it is. If the Packers beat the Chicago Bears on Sunday at Lambeau, they are going to the playoffs. Yeah, there is a scenario technically where if Green Bay loses, 3 other teams need to lose, and then the Packers can make it, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Packers, Bears, Week 18, playoffs on the line. Ryan, the Packers are favored in this one, but how does Green Bay make sure that Chicago doesn't catch them in a trap?
All they got to do, a trap game is ludicrous, right? All they got to do is look at the playoff implications. This is essentially a playoff game because what is a playoff game? A playoff game is you win, your season continues. You lose, your season ends. And that is essentially the position they're in here. I think last week, and this is really important for a young team to get this kind of exposure, to understand, get a feel for the pressure, to know what these kind of environments are like. Last week was a playoff game. This is a playoff game. They've been in this mode for a while now. And then if they win, their season continues and they get into the postseason. So it's not a trap game. It's essentially a playoff game.
It is the game. That is what it is. There's only one game left. If they win, there's another game. So, Marcus, this is the same situation that happened last year. The Seattle Seahawks win, which eliminates the Detroit Lions about 10 minutes before kickoff in Week 18. Packers can't get it done, though. They lose to the Lions, no playoffs. This year, they just need to win. No, nothing else needs to happen. The Packers just need to beat the Bears. How do you think the team is viewing this differently from last season?
Well, that's an interesting question because I feel like they should approach it the same way in that, I always laugh when it's like, okay, now it's the playoffs. Now, what's different about the playoffs? What's the right answer? Well, now we're going to really try, like you weren't trying before that. you got to be focused on one game at a time. Hopefully they took that approach into last year's game, and hopefully they apply that same mentality into this year's game. But I will say this year's team, although there are clear parallels, right? Packers win and they're in, just like last year, they fell short. The circumstances surrounding both teams are completely different. If you believe in the concept of pressure, last year's team was all in. I mean, the window was closing with Aaron Rodgers. We didn't necessarily know that would be his last go in Green Bay, but they kicked the can down the road to keep that team together as long as they could to make a run at a Super Bowl. You could tell the middle of last season it wasn't going to happen. Yes, they put themselves back in position to make the playoffs at the end, but there was a lot of pressure on them to win that game. This year, I mean, this might be controversial, but I think whatever happens on Sunday, this season's a success. They've determined Jordan Love has shown that he's the guy, he's the franchise quarterback to build around, and I think that lack of pressure, granted, it would be disappointing if they don't beat the Bears. It's right there in front of you. You got to do it if it's on a platter in front of you. But I think that lack of pressure and just this overall youthful exuberance with the team, I think that'll go a long way, and that is very different from the vibe last year.
I asked Quay Walker about the deja vu after the game, and he says, I think about that game maybe every other day.
Jordan Love said he thinks about that game. He didn't even play
So
in that game. That's not a good feeling. That sticks with you.
sticks with you, and the Packers want to rewrite history, completely change the narrative from last season to this season. All right, Green Bay's offense definitely been clicking in the last couple games, driven by Jordan Love's continued improvement, and it's not just the Packers locker room that's noticed. When we come back, we're heading there to hear how Love's teammates feel about his recent successes. That's next. Welcome back to Green Bay Nation. As Jordan Love continues to develop in his first year as a starter, he's doing more than just finding a way to win. He's setting records. Love became just the fourth quarterback in NFL history to throw 3 touchdowns and no interceptions in 5 of his first 17 games. And Sunday's game against the Vikings was one of those. And he added a rushing touchdown. Love now has 30 TDs on the season, 30 passing TDs, and 3,843 passing yards. And the quarterback's success is reaching the national scale. It's time to get in the zone. Cam is there.
After a show-stopping 4-touchdown performance against the Minnesota Vikings on New Year's Eve, it was just announced earlier today that Jordan Love is the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. And according to his teammates, with how he's been playing over the back half of this season, it's been a long time coming.
And it's great to see him get his accolades for that, I think he could have got it, the last few weeks, honestly. He's been great. He's doing a phenomenal job being a leader, directing us out there on the field and making sure we're doing our job.
I mean, Jordan, he deserves it, man. He's been, putting the ball in the right spots, just controlling just this tempo of this offense. He's been doing a fantastic job.
Super impressed. It's, plays that I've been seeing him make for a long time now. Just, him being able to find his rhythm and find his groove and be comfortable enough to make it, play after play, make the throws that he's making play after play. I'm just excited for him.
I can't say enough about him and the job that he's done. It's like every week he's more comfortable. Running the offense, leading the offense. He's making decisions quick. He's making good decisions. Just excited for him, man. I think that's the general census of everybody in the locker room. I mean, he's an amazing guy, and couldn't be happy for him.
Well, one more game left on the schedule means one more chance for Jordan Love to shine in the regular season. How about 30 touchdowns already? That ranks 3rd in the NFL. I know there was a lot of drama a couple of years ago when Love was selected in the first round, but guys, with what you've seen from Love this season, just how right was Brian Gutekunst to make that move then?
All right, time now for Q&A with Green Bay. We are playing Wednesday evening quarterback. Think back to 2020. The Packers go with Jordan Love. Could we have imagined that this is where we'd be 3 years later?
Well, I know there was a lot of knee-jerk reactions to that because he wasn't going to help the team right away, and they were on the verge of the Super Bowl. They had just gone to the NFC Championship game, but let's face it, quarterback is up here. Everything else is down here. It's by far and away the most important position, really, for an entire franchise, and the Packers had the foresight to put a plan in place for life after Aaron Rodgers. And I also think, Aaron Rodgers happened to win back-to-back MVPs right after the selection of Jordan Love. We can't act like Rodgers is the king of having a chip on his shoulder for literally everybody that slighted him, and then the selection of Love had nothing to do with Rodgers' kind of rebirth. It was a great pick.
It was a good pick for that alone, but now, and I remember that evening. I remember it because the night before I was filling out the mock draft for the Green Bay Press-Gazette, and I was this close to saying Jordan Love. So it didn't surprise me. I didn't have the the courage to do that, but it didn't surprise. I knew it was possible. And I remember thinking, it's going to take a few years. We don't know. We don't know. It's either going to be great or it's going to be really, really bad. And it was a great pick. Unless you think that they should have drafted Patrick Queen and missed the Super Bowl again and had no answer at quarterback right now, Brian Gutekunst drafting Jordan Love in 2020 was a great pick.
All right, when we come back, it's time for Challenge or No Challenge, presented by the Good Guys Heating and Cooling. And then we're getting green and bold. That's all next. Welcome back to Green Bay Nation. Time now for Challenge or No Challenge, presented by the Good Guys Heating and Cooling. Going into Week 18, will Ryan and Marcus agree with what I have to say, or will the flags hit the floor? Y'all ready?
Yep. Yeah.
All right, so we mentioned Jordan Love's success so far. 3,843 yards on the season. Means he just needs a little over 150 to eclipse that 4K mark. Challenge or No Challenge, Jordan Love has 4,000 passing yards in this season.
No challenge. He better throw for at least 157 yards. I mean, that's, of everything going on with the Packers right now, Love's the guy who gives you the most confidence. He should throw for at least 157 and hit 4,000.
Of everything going on, that's one of the things you have the most confidence in, too, with how he's playing. Can we just remark, no challenge, can we just remark how crazy it is that Aaron Rodgers in 2008 had a 93.8 passer rating? Right now, Jordan Love has literally a 93.8 passer rating. I don't get math, but to the decimal, that's...
The mirrors are mirroring right now.
That's
all right.
insane.
Aaron Jones coming off 2 straight 100-yard rushing games. When he is healthy, the Packers play well, and they win. Challenge or No Challenge, Jones gets his 3rd 100-yard rushing game.
Challenge. Aaron Jones is the man. They should feed him as much as he can handle, but the Bears, crazily enough, have the best run defense in football right now. I don't think Jones hits 100 again this Sunday.
I'm not going to challenge. You make a great point, Marcus. I can't. Number one is number one. I just think, one, he's fresh. And all those years of not giving the ball to Aaron Jones more, he's 29 now, and he's fresh. That builds up. Also, you want to keep Justin Fields off the field as much as possible because I don't want any part of him wrecking this game with his legs. And Aaron Jones does that.
All right, quickly, last one. You win the turnover battle, you often win games. Challenge or No Challenge, Green Bay wins the turnover battle.
I think they will, but the Bears are really good at taking it away. 16 interceptions in their last 6 games.
Wow.
Jordan Love is very good at not throwing the football away, and Justin Fields is very good at throwing the football away. So, yes, I'm not going to challenge that.
All right, only one flag on the floor now.
I like my flags.
When we come back, it's time to get green and bold and wrap up the show.
Tuck these in my pocket.
Time to wrap up the show and get green and bold here on Green Bay Nation. Week 18 must win for the Packers. Marcus, Ryan, who do you have?
This is a coin flip game. Shout out to Jair Alexander. I'm going to go with the Packers.
You know, last year's game against the Lions, I think the Lions were the better team, and we've seen that this season. I think the Packers, same scenario, are the better team. They're better than the Bears. I'm going to take the Packers.
I also have the Packers winning this game. More football in Green Bay. That'll do it for this edition of Green Bay Nation. For Marcus Eversole and Ryan Wood, I am Lauren Helmbrecht. Thank you for tuning in.